Hi everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the battery in this Norelco 5000 series shaver. I already disassembled it in order to figure out what the replacement battery was that it needed. So let's get started. First off, we need to desolder these two big battery terminals on the top of the circuit board. To do this, I'm going to turn my soldering iron up to 800 and use soldering wick to pull away the solder from the joint. I had some trouble getting the solder to flow, so make sure you put some fresh solder on the iron in order to help the heat transfer faster. Also, you might want to put some flux on the solder wick in order to help the solder flow up into the braid away from the battery terminal. Now, with most of the solder removed from the terminal, it's time to pop the battery out of its cradle. I had some trouble finding a replacement battery for this project, and so I wanted to share the one that I'm using in the description of this video. The issues that I ran into trying to find a replacement battery were wrong polarity, wrong size, I got AA instead of AAA, and the replacement battery that I'm putting in is 700 milliamp hours instead of 750, but that shouldn't be a problem. I did have some trouble getting the old battery out. Since it should be completely discharged, using a screwdriver to pry it out would have been much easier than brute force. With the battery free, I had hoped to pop the new one in, but it didn't quite want to come free yet, so I used my soldering iron to apply a little more heat and have it drop out. This is a great place to make sure that you don't run into the same problem that I had with this project. Double check that the plus and minus on your batteries match up to each other before you solder it in. Now here's a good point where I should have been using a non-metallic tool. The new battery is charged, so be careful not to connect the two terminals together with a stray bit of metal pokery. Battery seated and terminals poking through the circuit board, I'm almost done, except those terminals are a bit too long. Again, not thinking about having a charged battery, I cut the terminals short with diagonal cutters while it was installed in the circuit board. And I did actually short to the board at one point, so I'm very lucky that this didn't end up in the trash can right then. Take your time, mark the length that the tabs should be with a marker, and pull the battery back out to cut them to length. I made the mistake so you don't have to, because you might not be as lucky as I was. With the tabs folded over into place now, I apply a little bit of flux to the joint and then solder them together. With that, the hard part is done. Now all we have to do is clean up and reassemble the shaver. The way that I do that is with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel. The circuit board pops back into the body easy enough, just make sure that you seat it at the charging end really well. When you're reattaching the waterproof cover, you actually want to flip it upright, then place that, then put the cover on, and make sure that you snap all of your little clips back in place. Unfortunately, I had one of mine that got bent when I was taking it apart, so hopefully it's still waterproof. Putting the clamshell back together is actually way easier than taking the clamshell apart. I'm going to highlight here that there's a couple of tabs that you have to be careful of when you're taking it apart. You just have to remember to hook under when you're putting it back together. Technically, I should have checked before putting the clamshell back together to make sure that everything worked properly, but I forgot. And it turns out our battery needs charged, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this thing back together and then take it back to my place to charge it. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. It's going to yell at me, tell me to take that off of there. There we go. Let's try. It's alive again! Cool. I'm going to leave this to charge some more, and battery's fixed.